In this video, we're going to discuss a perfect BRRRR. And if you're not already familiar, BRRRR in the real estate world stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And the reason this strategy is so strong is because a BRRRR is when you buy, you renovate, meaning you increase the value of the property. You put a renter in said property, which now the property is producing income. You go to the bank to get a long-term loan, and they give you the cash that you invested to purchase and renovate the building, and then you take that cash and you go do it again. Now, there's a difference between a BRRRR and a perfect BRRRR. A BRRRR is when you go to refinance the deal, and through your purchase price, your renovation, your holding costs, and your closing costs, you left some of your investment capital in the deal at refinance. For example, you buy a multifamily property for $100,000 and it needs $50,000 of renovation, taking you up to $150,000. Then your holding costs and closing costs were $15,000, bringing you up to a grand total all-in cost of $165,000. Now, when you go to the bank and they say your property is worth $200,000, we're willing to give you 75% of that. They're going to give you a $150,000 loan, meaning you have that margin of $15,000 left in the deal. And that number, that $15,000, would be called your cash on cash return. How long does it take for me to get that $15,000 back from the cash flow of the property? Now, a perfect BRRRR. A perfect BRRRR is when you do that same deal, but the bank says that your property is worth $225,000. So 75% of that would be $175,000, and your all-in cost was $165,000. So not only did you get all of your money back through a loan, but the bank will also give you, if you're doing a cash out refinance, the bank will give you that remaining $10,000, and that goes straight to you tax-free. In this video, I'm going to describe to you my perfect BRRRR that I did here in my local market. Actually, this deal could have been my perfect BRRRR, but it wasn't. And the reason is I made a critical mistake during the renovation phase of this project, and it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars, and of course, the title of doing my perfect BRRRR. This project, now that we bought, renovated, rented, and refinanced, now generates $24,000 in net profits every single year, which is an amazing feeling and is a testament to when you buy, you make money when you buy, meaning price, price, price. On the refinance, not only did I pay out my private investor, which, side note, is one of the greatest feelings there is in the game of real estate. I love going out and finding a great deal, buying it, renovating it, managing it, doing all the things that we do on the multifamily side of real estate. However, sending a check to an investor saying, here's not only just your money back, but here's that strong return, and thank you so much for trusting me. And they're going to trust you even more. When they get that check in the mail, they're like, okay, I know that this guy or gal is somebody that I want to invest with again. This deal was a 6-unit multifamily property, and this was the start of what I call my real estate scale journey. A 6-unit building was something I had dreamed of. And for the longest time, I had been looking and looking for deals. And when I say long time, like 2.5 years, I was trying to buy a commercial multi-family property. Would fail after fail. I'd take a chunk of due diligence money and I would put it into a deal and I would fail. The deal would blow up, what have you. And over the course of a couple of years, I lost tens of thousands of dollars trying to buy a deal. And this property is such a transformation in my business because I recognize it wasn't all about me. I wanted to buy real estate because I had made real estate my complete and total identity. I was not serving God, I was serving myself. If I wasn't buying properties, I wasn't worth anything. If I wasn't buying deals, then I didn't have any value. And so I went on this whole journey of shiny object syndrome, trying to buy deals that didn't make sense, or maybe they did make sense, but I think God was trying to teach me something during that time. So right before we actually found this deal, I gave it all to the Lord. And I said, God, this is for you and not for me. And literally that same week, I had this property and another property fall right in my lap, and we closed on the same day. But this was the start of my real estate scale journey because it taught me something so much more valuable than just real estate itself. It's that buying real estate is a benefit, but the overarching mission of my life is to not please people, but it's to please God and serve people. Now, let me bring you in on what I like to call my easy as pie framework. P.I.E. Purchase, investor, and exit. So on the purchase, you've heard me talk about this a million times if you've known me for a long time. Now, since I'm fairly new to YouTube, you may have heard this before, but if it's your first time hearing it, when you buy, you're going to buy properties from people who know you, who like you, and who trust you. Are you active in your market? Do people know exactly what you want to buy? Before you get there, do you know exactly the type of property that you want to buy? What's your buy box? What's your purchase limit? What types of projects are you willing to take on? And what types of profits do you want from those acquisitions? We have to have that information dialed in, because when realtors, wholesalers, and sellers bring you properties, you need to be able to be decisive. Make a quick decision. Yes, I'm in. No, I'm out. And when people bring you properties that you say, yes, I'm in, they need to be able to know and trust that you are going to close. People just want investors, buyers that are going to give them a guaranteed close on good deals. And that's exactly what happened with this 6-unit building. I had a realtor who knew exactly what I wanted to buy. Small commercial multifamily properties, this being a 6-unit, that she found through a connection of hers where a wholesaler was trying to sell this property. The guy was an investor himself. He had a few projects that he was working on, and this one was just going to be a little too much. And I had done a few renovations and had some of experience under my belt. She brought me the deal. I went out and walked it that same exact day. Within 24 hours, if I can help it at all, I'm going to go at least view the property. So I went out there with a contractor and we walked every single unit and we decided, yep, this is a deal that I'm going to be able to do. I didn't have all the answers. God did not come down and reveal to me, son, it will take you $100,000 to renovate this building, and here's all the things that you need to work out and look out for. No, I didn't have that. I didn't have all the answers. However, price, price, price. Price is the coverall. When you make money, when you buy. We bought this property for $145,000, which is roughly $22,000 per door. That is a deal that you can say yes to, even with a heavy lift on the renovation side, because you make money when you buy. So without having all the answers, without having a ton of years of experience, I knew because we were getting such a good deal, I can bring all of the mistakes, I can bring all the screw ups and still come out of this deal on top. That was the P phase of our easy as pie framework. Purchase. Now, moving into the investors, AKA the financing. How did I get the money? And how did I structure the money? This is huge because you can find the greatest deal of all time, but if you can't fund it, you can't buy it. I funded the purchase price of this 6-unit deal through a hard money lender. Surprise, surprise. They brought 90%. I brought 10%. I brought that 10% of my own money. Believe it or not, I'm a big proponent of OPM, other people's money, but I did end up bringing the 10% from our own savings, our own business savings. Now, that's the easiest way to fund any deal. And I could have got the renovation capital from them. It would have been a little more expensive, and I would still have to fund my first leg of renovations before I could get my first draw of renovation capital from the hard money lender. However, this is where the value of masterminds come from, because I've been a part of a real estate mastermind for several years, the very high level commercial multifamily real estate mastermind. And I've rubbed shoulders with some really incredible, successful operators. So we were at a 3-year retreat down in the mountains of North Carolina. It was absolutely gorgeous. And about 20 of us all got together to talk real estate, to do life together. And through that, I had thrown out that I was in the closing phase of this 6-unit building. And one of the guys there says, "Hey, I've got some capital I want to get working for me. Let's do something together." I said, "That'd be great. I might have something for you." I called him right after the event and said, "Hey, here's the deal that I got. Here's how I'd like to structure it. I'd like to put a mortgage in place where you'll be the second lien holder. And then I'd also put together a promissory note, which is a personal guarantee from me saying I am going to pay you this money back." So he agreed. We agreed to pay him 10% on his money. So he invested $72,500 of capital that he wired straight to my business account. And we used that money to fund the renovation of that 6-unit building. But I wouldn't have access to that capital if I didn't value investing my own money, investing in myself and investing in my business in order to get into the right rooms. When I have a question about something, I can reach out. When I have a challenge, when I have something that I need to overcome, or if I just want to continue to refine and sharpen so I can build our business to be a business that doesn't own me, but I own it, and can really build the generational wealth that real estate provides. When you bring somebody else's capital into your business, this is a huge deal. This is somebody's blood, sweat, and tears in money form. It's not, "Oh, I just have a bunch of money and now maybe I spend a little here on myself. Maybe I take care of some things over here." No, you want to use that money to grow the business so that you never guarantee to them or to other investors, because nothing is guaranteed. It's always a risk when we are investing. But to you yourself, I will give this person's money back to them no matter what. Fake it till you make it will bury you. Knowing when to cut your losses is not the right strategy. When I was in the military, I worked with special forces for about 5 years of my career. And one of the things that we valued was breaking people down physically so we could reveal their mental, what's truly lying behind. Will people continue to move forward when things get really, really hard? Or will they give up? Will they fold? Will they crumble? This is a test for you. When the renovation gets hard, when you come across things like we did in this property, we had half the building is actually underneath the ground. So the first floor has about 4 feet where it's underneath the ground, and there's 4 foot of wall, and the water was not getting away from the property. It was actually sinking down, and it was running into the downstairs units. And I got several quotes, all well above $15,000 to get that fixed. And it was going to blow our budget out. And I didn't know exactly how we would get through the rest of the renovation phase. But we worked through every option possible. We don't just take those quotes at face value. No, we test them. We think, how can we get water away from the property without spending $19,000 in order to do it? But it was pretty stressful. We needed to figure it out. Now, if I didn't have the strong mental clarity, the mental tenacity that I have, that could have been something that buried this deal, that could have sent us into the hole. However, I made some other mistakes that were probably more expensive than that $19,000. However, you continue to push through because it's not your money. It's not your blood, sweat, and tears. It's somebody else's. And we as operators have to get every dollar that we have raised back to our investors plus interest. Which leads me to the E of our easy as pie framework: purchase, investor, and now exit. And exiting is simply when you decide to refinance the property, you sell the property, or a number of different things, but we're just going to talk about those two. So our primary exit strategy for this 6-unit building was a cash out refinance. The reason for that is because my goal with real estate, and it's been my goal from the beginning, is to increase my monthly cash flow as high as possible, because I recognize that when you have a ton of income producing assets, you can start to leverage that against your time. Instead of needing to go out and sell properties in order to get cash in the business, we have properties that produce monthly cash flow and then we use that to sustain our lifestyle. We use that to invest into our community. We use that to bless our sphere of influence and, of course, sow back into the kingdom of God. Now, exit strategy number 2, which can be just as good, I just don't think it leverages time as well, but we always keep it as a secondary and alternate option, which is to simply sell. Because we bought this property for such a good price, $145,000, we put that $72,500 from an investor, and we ended up investing about $30,000 of our own capital. And I'll get to that here. We're almost to the part where I reveal or bring you in on the big mistake that I made. But we can sell that property and get a windfall. Right? We could sell that property for, call it $400,000, and we have our $145,000 into it, plus our $75,000 from our investor, roughly, which takes us a little over $200,000, and then our $30,000 that we invested from ourselves, which takes us to close to $250,000. We could have sold that building from anywhere from $360,000 to $400,000, where we could have made $90,000 plus. We could take that money and then we could go buy more deals. We could invest it into something bigger. However, if you're like me, we want to have that monthly cash flow that sustains over time, and then still later in the future can decide we want to sell that property and take our profits and roll it into something else. And now I'm going to bring you in on what was this huge mistake that I made on this property. So in actuality, this is the first project that I had done start to finish all on my own. I renovated a 4-unit building, top to bottom, fully gutted, everything, with a partner, and we managed that renovation together, but I was overseas for a lot of that, so he took on the brunt. So this is my first go at it. And I walked it with a contractor. My contractor is an amazing guy, and he went on to do more projects with me after this. However, the number one mistake to make on such a large renovation that takes months and months is you have 2 options to pay your contractor. You can pay by the job or you can pay by the hour. One of those 2 can be taken advantage of. One of those 2 can start to increase the amount of money that it costs to raise or to renovate that building. And that's what happened. I chose to pay this contractor hourly. And at first it was great because it was just him. And then he added 2 individuals onto his team. Better because it's getting done faster. And then there were 2 or 3 other guys that he added to the team, which didn't really speed up the process because they were new. He was teaching them a lot. If he wasn't on site, You would show up, or I would show up on property, and they'd be on their phone, or they'd be talking to each other, or they would be taking a rest. And that is money going down the drain. So what could have been a 2 to 3 month project turned out to be a 6 month renovation, paying by the hourly, was very, very expensive. So that's where that $35,000 extra that came from our own pocket went into the deal, is because of the mistake that I had made. Now, if I had asked one of my mentors, one of my plethora of mentors, I could have avoided that completely. So it's important to stay hip to hip when you were going on your real estate scale journey. Additionally, when you are doing projects with renovations, it's important to have access to your own funds and or access to other people's money. Should something go sideways, you can either fund it yourself or you can raise additional capital to get the deal across the goal line. In this particular deal, my wife and I decided that we would take our own personal funds in order to close out the renovation process. That is just one of the options that we had. We did it that way because we didn't want to have to offer equity or anything like that, restructure the deal. And that was just a decision we made. However, if we had chosen to take other people's money and bring it into the deal in order to close it out, that would have been just as good as an option. And the reason why is because price, price, price. You make money when you buy. Because there was so much meat on the bone, we could still offer a return, a strong return to an investor over time. Whether we cashed out refi, we left some money in the deal, and we just paid them their money back plus interest, or we went to our alternate exit strategy, which is to sell. We sell, we make our primary investor whole, our hard money lender whole, and then whoever we brought in, we would make them whole as well. But one of those two options, being resourceful, not giving up when things get difficult, is the mark of a successful investor. I got a little ahead of myself in that last part because I wanted to show you a little bit of a bonus of what happens when you don't completely BRRRR out of a property and you have investor capital still left in the deal. One, you could have your reserves. You pay them out from your own personal business bank account or your own personal account, whatever it takes to get them their money plus their interest back. You could offer them equity, meaning anytime you sell the property, they get that cut. And they would also receive that percentage in monthly cash flow. So if you plan to buy and hold that property for 5, 10, 15, 20 years or the lifetime of that property, they would get equity cash flow either in perpetuity, meaning it never ends, or you could structure it once they get their principal back plus all of their interest, they would be pulled out of the deal and you would maintain 100% ownership of that deal. But there's a number of different ways that you can do that. If you don't want to give them all the money out of your reserves, you pay them back a portion of the reserves plus cash flow until they're paid out completely. There's a million different ways to skin that cat, but you just have that in your arsenal and in the back of your mind anytime you are planning exit strategies or you run into snags that increase or blow out your budget. What are you going to do to make your investors whole? In the next video, I'm going to take this same deal and I'm going to break down the top lessons learned. I gave you a sneak peek today of what cost me the perfect BRRRR. But what were the top lessons learned from the renovation process, start to finish, that I extracted from that deal and then applied to the rest of my business dealings? Because we bought this property at the end of 2023 at the time of the recording. It is March of 2026. So we've had a lot happen in those last 3 years. But this property, the start of my scale journey, taught me so many critical lessons that defined the success of our last 3 years, and I cannot wait to share that with you. And I think it's obvious. If you like this video, if you enjoyed this video, if you were served from this video, go ahead and like the video, comment, let me know your questions, your feedback, and of course, subscribe so that way you get notified when I drop my real estate videos every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I pray that God blesses you this week. I pray that God connects with you this week, that you stay in your word just as I will be in my word with you. I've got a verse here. The verse of the week is John chapter 14, verse 12, which says, "Truly, truly," this is the words of Jesus. "Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me also will do the works that I do. And greater works than these will he do, because I am going to the Father." And what Jesus is saying in this verse is that I'm not going to be with you forever, but I'm equipping you. I'm teaching you. I am showing you the things that I know so that you can go do even greater things in the name of me and in the name of my Father. And I think that this is a powerful verse, especially for where we're at right now in the context of this video. I am taking my experience, my knowledge, and I want to share that with you so that you can go do real estate yourself, so that you can go and do even better deals than I even thought. And I'd love for you to share that with me, and we can celebrate together as we go on our real estate scale journey. But John chapter 14, verse 12. Let's memorize that verse together. And I pray that this word speaks to you and that this video served you. God bless you and Godspeed.